Okay, this is part 3 of our videos on dividing using the bus stop method. And in these examples, we're going to see what to do when a number doesn't go in exactly. So when we get remainders at the end, what we're going to do, instead of seeing them as remainders, we are going to take them and turn them into decimals, which is what should happen. Okay, I might make a bit more room just in case. Okay, and before we get started, let's just make sure everybody understands this. If you write £5, you could just write it like that, but I suspect you'll be also familiar with this. £5. So we can write it using a decimal point to show when we have come to the end of our pounds, and then we can have 2 zeros after it, which would represent pence. So we could, if we have something like this, 4.99, we know that means 4 whole pounds and then 99 pence. So the decimal is splitting up the whole numbers from the smaller parts, the parts that are less than 1. Less than a whole pound would be pence, but in mathematical terms, it just means less than 1 unit. So whatever the unit is, it doesn't have to be pounds. It could be centimeters, milliliters, miles, anything. And if we have a decimal point and then zeros, you have to understand that that doesn't change the value of that amount. Because we've got a decimal point separating the whole number from the zeros, the value stays just the same. And if you're not clear on that, maybe we'll have another look at that in another video. Right, let's go back to my sums. I'm going to change colour. So in this, I'm going to say how many 2s in 7. Or let's start by saying what the sum is. 733 divided by 2. And in your minds, you should already be thinking, that's not an even number. It doesn't end in 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So 2 is not going to go exactly into it. So let's see what we do. 2's into 7. Well, 2's into 7 goes 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6, so we're going to get 1 remainder. We're going to put that in front of the 3 to make 13. And we say, how many 2's in 13? There are 6. 6 2's are 12. Again, we have 1 remainder. We're going to pass that over, put it in front of our 3 to make 13 again. So we have 6 again. 2 goes into 13 6 times, and here we again have this 1 remainder. So what do we do with it? What we do is we put a decimal point, and then we can add zeros, and we could add as many zeros as we like, but let's just do 1 for now. And I'm also going to extend that line to keep going, and now I can just keep going. I must remember to also have a decimal point here. Place value is so important. So if there's a decimal point here, there's a decimal point here. Okay, now we can continue. So we've said 2's into 13. It goes 6 times. There's 1 remainder. We're going to carry it over like we have every other time and put it in front of that 0 to make 10. And then we say, how many 2's in 10? There are 5. So the answer to 733 divided by 2 is 366.5, or 366 and a half. 0.5 is the same as a half. So much to learn in one video. Right, hopefully if you're okay with that, we'll move on to the next one. If you want to pause and have a go yourself, please do. at any time. Okay, so this second one, 195 divided by 2. 2's into 1, can't get a whole number, so we're going to put a 0 there. We're going to remember to carry over that 1 to here to make 19. 2's into 19 goes 9 times. 2 times 9 is 18. So we've got 1 remainder. We'll put it in front of that 5 to make 15. 2's into 15 goes 7 times. 2 times 7 is 14. So again, we've got this remainder of 1 and nowhere to put it. We're going to do exactly what we did in the last one. We're going to put a decimal point and a 0 after it and put that 1 in front of it to make 10. We must also put a decimal point on top, and let's extend that line. So we say 2's into 10 goes 5 times. So the answer is 97.5. Okay, let's do the next one. 2's into 4 goes exactly twice. 2's into 6 goes exactly 3 times. 2's into 7 goes 3 times with 1 remainder. 2's into 19 goes 9 times with 1 remainder. So we're going to put decimal point 0, put the 1 in front of it, extend our line, and then we must have a decimal point on top. 2's into 10 goes 5 times. So what we should be seeing here is that if you're dividing an odd number by 2, then you're always going to get this extra half left over. 0.5 means a half. So if it's an even number, it will go in exactly. If it's an odd number, when we divide by 2, we're going to end up with these extra halves. Okay, so 4,679 divided by 2 is 2,339.5. And don't take my word for it. Let's get the calculator out and check. 4,679 divided by 2 equals 2,339.5. Great. Okay, so that's dividing by 2. If it's even, you'll get an exact amount. If it's odd, you're going to get a leftover of this half, which we would put as 0.5. Right, if you are good with that, let's move on. I'm going to extend these lines before we start because we're going to need extra room. Let's do that. Okay. So the first one, we have 482 divided by 4. And we may not be sure whether this is going to go in exactly. It's an even number. If it was an odd number and we're dividing by 4, then it's not going to work because 4 is even. But we have got an even number. So let's see if it goes in exactly. 4's into 4 goes once, no remainder. 4's into 8 goes 2 with no remainder. 4's into 2, and here we can't do it. We can't put 4 into 2 and get a whole number. So we're going to have to put a 0. It doesn't go into 2. But we can't end there because we've still got this 2 that we haven't dealt with. So we're going to do exactly what we did before. I'm going to put a decimal point. And this time I'm going to put 2 zeros. Because when we're dividing by 4, 1 0 may not be enough. Let's see what happens. So the 2 was left over. So we can put it in front of that 2 sorry, in front of that 0 to make 20. Don't forget, we've got a decimal point there. We need a decimal point here. 4s into 20 goes 5. Okay, so the answer to 482 divided by 4 is 120.5. Let's check it. Good, and that's right. So we have still got these halves. Now let's see what happens with the next one. Excuse me. 953 divided by 4. So we're going to say 4s into 9 goes twice. 4 times 2 is 8. So we're going to get a remainder of 1. And then 4s into 15, that goes 3 times. 4 times 3 is 12. So we have a remainder of 3. I'm going to put that in front of this 3 to make 33. 4s into 33. Remember, if you don't know your 4 times table well, you can pause a minute to work that out, or you could write out your 4 times table so you're prepared. But 4s into 33 goes 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32. So we have got a remainder of 1. We should be getting used to it now. We're going to put our decimal point, put a couple of zeros, and carry that 1 over to make 10. Must also have a decimal point at top to keep our place value. So now we're saying 4s into 10 goes twice. 4 times 2 is 8. So we're going to have a remainder of 2. I'm going to put that in front of my second 0. And 4s into 20 goes 5 times. Okay, so the answer is 238.25. And I know that we call this, when we're talking about money, we might say £238.25. But I want you to get into the habit of calling it 0.25, not 25. It can be very misleading to you if you think of that as 25. It's 0.25. Right, let's check it. 953 divided by 4 equals, excellent, 238.25. And I'm making connections here that you might not see, but 0.25 is the same as a quarter. And if we're dividing by 4, that should make sense. Quarters are 1 over 4. So divisions of 4, 0.25. Right, that might be too much information for now, but it's something to think about. Right, let's move on to this one. 5,091 divided by 4. So we've got 4s into 5 goes once, and we've got a remainder of 1. So that's going to make the next digit 10. 4s into 10 goes twice. 2 times 4 is 8. So we have a remainder of 2. Put that in front of the 9, make 29. I'm moving quite quickly, but you can stop and pause anytime. 4s into 29 goes 8 times. 4, no it doesn't. It goes 7 times. You see, even I can make mistakes. 4 7s are 28. That's where the 8 came from in my mind. Very easy to make mistakes like that. So 4 7s are 28. We've got 29, so we've got a remainder of 1. I'm going to put a 1 in front of that 1 to make 11. And 4s go into 11. I'm going to be very careful now. 2 times, which makes 8. So we have got a remainder of 3. What are we going to do with the remainder of 3? We're going to put a decimal point, couple of zeros, and put the 3 in front of that 0 to make 30. We must also put a decimal point on top so that we are keeping place values. And we are now getting into decimals. So we can now say, how many 4s are there in 30? 4 goes into 30 7 times, which is 28. Didn't make that same mistake twice. And there will be a remainder of 2. 4 7s are 28, remainder of 2. Put it in front of that 0 to make 20. 4s into 20 goes 5. Okay, so we have got an answer of 1272.75. I'm going to say another thing that might throw some confusion out there, but food for thought. 0.75 is 3/4. So when we had that remainder of 3, that was leading us to 3 out of 4, which is 3/4. Big jump, but all of these things are things that you can think about, help connect decimals to fractions.